Kabocha squash? This is a Kabocha squash. It's a little green pumpkin looking thing, and it's from Japan originally, but it's grown all over the US. It's got that hard shell like a winter squash, so it can be a little bit daunting in thinking, you know, how do you cook these? You know, do I need to get a meat cleaver to open it up? You really don't. I've got really, really simple ways of cooking these types of squashes. It's a creamy, yummy, sweet squash, and I know you're gonna love it, so let's get started. So as I said before, it's really, really simple to do this. Basically, I've got my baking sheet that's lined with aluminum foil. As you can see, super easy for easy cleanup, right? And then I just have my Kabocha squash, a cutting board, and then I want a sharp knife. This one's serrated because it's a little bit easier to use. And all you're gonna do is make 2 incisions at the top. So one here. Just make sure you go all the way through to where the seeds are, and then one on the other side. And then get your knife out, and that's it. That's it. We just set it in. I'm gonna put this on the oven rack, and I'm gonna put this underneath the squash on a lower rack so that it can still kind of get the heat all the way around the squash. So I'm gonna show you that right now. So my oven is set to 400. Obviously, I'm gonna open it up. You can see how the racks are set up. I'm just going to place the baking sheet on the very bottom just to catch any of the drippings. And then I'm just gonna set this right there in the middle, close it up, and you wanna make sure that you cook it for like 55 minutes. I usually set my alarm, it's, like I said, 400 degrees, set it for 55 minutes, and then you're good to go. So we've got about 7 minutes left, and I'm just gonna take a look and see what's going on in here. You can see that it's nice and shiny, and it's starting to get brown on the top. So what I'm gonna do is just flip it to make sure that the bottom gets browned as well. Right now that it's flipped, it's going back in the oven. We're gonna set it for the rest of the time, which is like 7 minutes remaining, and then I'm just gonna check it. Looks good to me. We'll be taking it out. Now you just wanna make sure, now that you've brought your squash out of the oven, that you just let it cool for just about 10 minutes so that you can actually handle it, because once you break open that hard shell, it's going to be really, really hot. So just let it cool, kind of sit it on the counter and forget about it, and then we'll move on to our next step. So it has been just about 2 hours since I took my squash out of the oven, and the reason it's been so long, it's been cool for a while now, but my son woke up and I had to put him back down to bed and yada yada yada. So you can see how this is really something that you can make and do other things and come back to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this squash, I'm just gonna cut it right down the center, and it's really, really soft now because I cooked the heck out of it. And you can see on the inside, there's just a little bit of seeds like any squash. So we're just gonna take half of this, and I'm just gonna, the seeds just come right out really, really easy, especially now that it's so soft and warm. And so they've both been de-seeded, and I'm gonna take half of this squash, and I'm gonna just take off this peel, and you can see it just comes off really easily once you've roasted it so nicely, and put it in just this little glass container here. And that is going to become my side dish for tomorrow's dinner. Now with the other side of the squash, I'm gonna put this in my mixing bowl, and I'm actually gonna turn this into a dessert. So we're gonna be adding a few nice things to this. So now I've added my Kabocha squash, and I'm just gonna be kind of mashing it up. And what I'm gonna do is just add a few little seasonings to it, as well as some other little goodies. So this is just some dried cranberries. I just use about a handful. Unless you want, you can add kind of as many as you want, as many as you like. Then I'm gonna do just about 2 tablespoons of agave, and I like to just kind of eyeball it. You don't really need that much because, like I said, it's a pretty sweet squash. And that's just to season it. I've also added blackstrap molasses in the past, but the molasses does turn the squash a little bit darker. Then you're gonna add your seasonings. I just do about a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I like to do a half a teaspoon of, let's see, of pumpkin pie spice. And it's just because this brand, I've used this before, Spice Hunter, is so potent that it can, you don't really need to do that much. Then just mix that all together. And this is gonna be your filling for your little dessert thing that we're gonna make here in a second. So brushing the pan with butter, much better. And I'm just gonna use a few small sheets of phyllo dough. So now, we're just gonna roll out the phyllo dough. And what I'm gonna do actually is, I'm gonna just use some scissors to cut this because it's just like paper thin, beautiful. It's just 5 or 6 sheets thin. I'm just gonna cut that right down. And what I'm gonna do is cut these into thirds with my scissors. Oh, they're just like little paper dough. They're so cute. All right, so they're just about this big. Lay it on your greased sheet. Then you're gonna paint each little layer. Now this can be a little bit cumbersome. So one layer at a time, right? A little bit of butter, lay the next one down. So you're just gonna do 5 sheets of this. You can also use puff pastry, which would be a lot easier because it's just, you know, you just roll out the puff pastry, it's done. But this is kind of an interesting little trip to Greece we're gonna take here in my kitchen. A little scoop of our mixture. Just like, I don't know, probably like 2 tablespoons. Set it right in the middle. Ooh, so pretty. Oh my gosh, so good. And just wrap it like in a little wrap square. Cover it with butter. All right, so I finished with my little squash baklavas. I'm just getting ready to put them in the oven at 375 for about 30 minutes, but watch it because you never know, based on your oven. What I'm gonna do, the final little touch is I've chopped up some walnuts, just rough chop, just about a handful, putting them in this little bowl here, and I'm gonna add about another tablespoon of agave, just to kind of coat it. And then we're just going to stir these up, make sure that our nuts are nice and candy covered. We will place a little bit on top of each little squashy baklava thing, and they will look so yummy and so good. So remember, just when you do phyllo dough, you just paint the butter on each layer, and I use clarified butter or ghee, which you can see on my blog. I've got a little info about that. And yeah, just paint it on and cover it up, and then you just toss these little almonds on top, stick it in the oven, and you're good to go. We'll see how it tastes when it comes out of the oven. All right. Look at these beauties. Dun, 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 dun. Well, they are finished and they are yummy. These little phyllo dough wrapped baklava squashy things that I made. I'm gonna try one right now. And of course I took too big of a bite. But it's so good. Light and fluffy. Really not too much dough. So it's really mostly squash. Hardly any sugar, just a little bit of agave, and we're good to go. For more information just like this, visit healthgirltv.com. Thank you.